To week 4 of our Guillotine League. Um, Last week, we saw a new high score, a team not start a quarterback. Not that it would have mattered since CD Lamb was out, but it seems like that low score is gonna be moving up pretty soon. Landon having the score of 78, being the second lowest, is pretty high, and so we'll see if that continues if the next person who's out is in the 70s. So I got the new high score. Pretty much everyone went off for my team. We're seeing 130s, 120s for high scores. A new low score, 46.4. I'm going to leave an asterisk there because Patrick clearly is not actually checking this league. He started J.J. McCarthy, who was ruled out way before game started, and it didn't help him that C.D. Lamb was also out with 0 points. And so it's a tough look for his team. At one point, he was still projected to survive, which would have been crazy, which kind of led into a couple of our trades. But Patrick gets chopped. We say goodbye to our third team, and 3 zeros. J.J. McCarthy, which we knew was going to be a 0. C.D. Lamb, which is probably the devastating blow to the team, getting 0. And then Jalen Wright going for 0, just not helping out at all. Zay Flowers had been amazing, and it was a pretty high-scoring Monday night game. He came up with nothing. Travis Hunter has been terrible for fantasy football's sake, not running many routes, not getting the looks. Honestly, that offense hasn't looked great, except, I guess, maybe Travis Etienne. Javonte Williams had been carrying his team for a while, and Jonathan Smith was fine. Tyreek and Devontae Adams, they were good. I actually loved Devontae Adams. I was bummed that he went for so much. But overall, his team, not great. You need to average about 10 points per spot, and 3 zeros, especially one from the quarterback. You're going to be out pretty much every week if you get a 0 spot from your quarterback. So some updates here. A lot of fab was exchanged. Some big moves. Reagan kind of panic traded and gave Harvey an 800 fab for CMC. And as much as CMC is great, 800 fab is a lot. But then Brogan then goes. So Reagan trades with Brogan. Brogan then takes that 800 fab, spends a little bit more, and picks up Javonte, Tyreek, Devontae, and Addison. I actually don't like either of these moves. I think Reagan paid way too much. He was going to be fine. Patrick didn't start a quarterback. Obviously, at the time, I don't think you knew that CeeDee Lamb was going to get 0 points. But then taking 1,150 fab for Javonte, Tyreek, Devontae, and Addison, I don't love that either. I think that's an overpay for both of them. I'm kind of glad a bunch of fab is out of the market. We have a total of, it looks like 11,600 fab in circulation right now. Reagan also trades Henry for Kincaid, Chubb, and 325. I think that's a fair deal on either side. I would rather have Henry than those other 3 things, but Kincaid had a great weekend. 325 fab is a good amount, and then Johnny and I swapped some players, so I get Elick and Jamar Chase, and I sent Sutton, Rice, and 225 fab to Johnny. When I was making the slides, I noticed that Jamar Chase was on Johnny's bench. He wasn't even planning on starting him because he's worried about the Denver's defense. I am worried about the upcoming schedule because he's got Jamar Chase has Denver, Detroit Lions, and Green Bay Packers. So I think it could be a rough 3 weeks. Obviously, Rice would be out for the next 3 weeks, and Sutton had an amazing game. He's a little up and down, so I'm kind of happy to get rid of him just because I also have him in almost every league. So when Sutton has a bad week, all my teams are down. And so I like this trade. I think it's pretty even both ways, and it'll be interesting to see in the next couple weeks how that plays out. Going through our teams in the order they scored last week, Taylor had just an amazing game. I mean, he's been fantastic. McBride has been fantastic. Finally got a touchdown, so that was exciting. Starting to get a little worried about Drake London. The upside is there, but man, he's not looking great. I mean, that whole offense just looked dreadful against the Panthers. Fantasy Pros has me starting Travis Hunter, but there's no way I'll be starting Travis Hunter. I'll be starting Elick Minor. I don't trust Hunter at all. Caleb Williams, I hopefully will be a serviceable quarterback, and Jalen Warren is getting so much work. I love that draft pick. I'm a little worried about Gainwell getting the goal line touches, but he's been fantastic right now. Don't know what I'm going to do next week when he's on a bye. Another great week out of Chris. His rookie running backs are looking really, really good. He's got Judkins, who has just totally taken over the backfield. If he doesn't get suspended this year, that's going to be excellent value. Cam Scatterbo looks great. He's clearly going to be in line for more work when Tracy's out. Maybe Jackson Dart is going to help the Giants offense actually do something. I kind of doubt it. Wide receivers are not great, but he's certainly got enough of the high-end pieces with Lamar and with Achane, who just keeps catching passes. And even though he's in an awful offense, he's going to just get so many points. Brian's team just totally defying the Fantasy Pros ranking. Again, we're going to see later. Fantasy Pros is not like his team again. A lot of red here. Some pretty good running backs, and outside of that, not much going on. James Cook is fantastic. Maybe the Saints are so bad that James Cook actually doesn't see a lot of work. Maybe Torrey Horton is going to take some targets from Kupp. One can dream as a Torrey Horton owner in another league. So this is Fleming's team, and I hate this team. I hate that he has Josh Allen, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, JSN. I mean, you're starting those four every week of the year. Even the championship, I think those are all four starters. Even if one of them has an off week, the other three are going to be fantastic. It doesn't even matter who's on the rest of this team. It looks like Hunter Renfrow is what Fantasy Pros thinks would be the best flex down there. He only ran 10 routes last week. But Fleming's going to consistently be in the upper end of this ranking with points scored, because those four players are going to score a lot of points, and his fab budget is low, $485, but that's still plenty to work with this early on. He's going to be fine. Isaiah had a pretty good week last week. I said that he was going to be a top 3 team, and I was kind of close. Pickens is going to see a lot more targets with Lamb out, so he could easily be a wide receiver 1, but for Isaiah, he's the 3rd wide receiver because Mbuke is awesome, and with Evans out, Mbuke is going to see a ton of targets. Nico Collins is seeing a crazy amount of targets, even though the offensive line is just dreadful. They just are feeding Nico the ball. I think maybe it's time to get worried about Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, as a low end flex in a 15-team league, that's a great person to have. Long term, I was super high on him, but it might not pan out for the Jaguars. Brogan, his team is very different than last week. Really solid across the board, really high end flexes. The changes should keep him safe for a while, I would think. I mean, Mark Andrews is not going to have as good of a game as he did this last week, but he won't need that with the players that he has. Michael Pittman being his last flex, that would be, I think for other teams, like Pittman might even be a wide receiver 2 for a different team. I don't love having Ladd and Keenan on the same team. I think you just never know when a crazy weather game can happen, and a Chargers offense, even though it looks great, they might get like a ton of rain or a ton of wind, and they just run the ball and they end up with single digit fantasy points. So I don't necessarily love having two wide receivers on the same team this early, even though they're both fantastic. I do think this team is safe in the short term. Don't necessarily love the long term outlook for this team. Johnny, so this I had to redo this slide after our trade. I think he got an awesome value in Zay Flowers, capitalizing on the down week. He's a fantastic plug and play. AJ Brown is going to have your classic ups and downs. I think that's the biggest worry for Johnny, is that AJ Brown and Zay Flowers are going to see games where they get single-digit points, even low single digits, like your 2s and 3s, and that could happen at the same time. But Zach Ertz continues to be just a solid tight end. I think Rashid Rice is a great option in a few weeks. I was not easy. I didn't want to easily part with him, and so I think he has a team to survive until then, and then his flexes are going to be even better. It looks like Carson Wentz is a quarterback. I can't remember if he has another option, but that's he looks somewhat serviceable, and you just need at least 15 points out of that position, and he can probably get there. Caleb's team, middle of the pack. Let's see how the Jackson Dart experience goes with Malik Neighbors. Clearly, Neighbors had a rough weekend, and you can't play the Cowboys every weekend. At least he has them once more later this year. Caleb got the good end of the James Conner injury because he has Trey Benson, and I think Benson's going to see a ton of work. He's going to be a top 20 running back the rest of the way. I think TJ Hawkinson is just a fantastic tight end. He got a lot of targets. I think he's going to continue to see that while McCarthy is out. The upside of Kenneth Walker is great. I hope Drake May continues to develop. I really hope that he starts targeting Stephon Diggs a little bit more, selfishly from another league. But I think May is definitely he could be a top 5 QB the rest of the way. I think there's a chance, you're starting him in the semifinals. So I think that was a great draft pick and could lead to great things here. Bailey's team, continually doubted by both Sleeper and Fantasy Pros, but continues to beat expectations. Amarian Hampton looks great, and he's going to have a larger role with Najee Harris out the rest of the way. I think Ray Davis is a sneaky start. So Fantasy Pros has Chicago Bears backup running back Madungai. I can't remember exactly his name. Plugged in here as RB2, but I know Bailey's starting Ray Davis, and I think that could be a great start. As I mentioned earlier, the Bills play the Saints, and the Saints look terrible, and the Bills look amazing. That game could get ugly quick, and Ray Davis could get maybe even a full half of being the starter in the second half, at least a quarter, I'd say. And so I think he's going to get a good amount of work and be a pretty strong RB2 in a 15-team league. Not sure how I feel about Darnell Mooney as a top flex. Terry McLaurin, it'll be interesting if Jaden Daniels plays. But Ferguson as a tight end, he's been great, and Amon-Ra is right back to where he was a couple years ago. Reagan with a lot of moves this week. He basically traded away Derrick Henry and got CMC in his RB1 spot. I'd say that's definitely an upgrade. And CMC looks great, at least until he gets hurt. His wide receiver 1 is Chris Olave, who looks great until he gets hurt. I feel like this is like your ticking time bomb team, where any given weekend, Reagan's going to go into the weekend projected to be middle or upper pack, and then all of a sudden we're going to get news, okay, early in the game CMC gets hurt, early in the game Chris Olave gets hurt, and all of a sudden he's out 2 players, kind of almost as we just saw with Patrick here. I think that would be my worry for this team. I think pretty solid across the board, but you can't get away from the injury-prone CMC and Olave. You have to start them, but you just never know in a given game. And I mean, even Tucker Kraft has dealt with a little bit of injuries. He just traded for Dalton Kincaid, who can't repeat, I don't think, what he did last weekend. The Bills passing attack is a little all over the place. Kevin Kevin's team, a lot of yellow and red with one green, one top five. Is this a week that Stevenson finally takes a backseat to Henderson? Probably not, but it should be more of a split after the fumbles. Marvin Harrison, I think he has a dud on Thursday Night Football. I think, he's not been good. That Cardinals offense has not been great. Gibbs plays the vaunted Browns defense. I think Gibbs he's going to see plenty of touches. He'll probably have a bad game for his standards, but a good game for maybe someone else. I think Kevin's in trouble this week. I think he's going to spend a lot of time in Chop's danger zone category. I think that there's just not a ton of upside. I think the Laporta and Gibbs against the Browns defense is not great. Marvin Harrison, Jerry Jeudy, that's not great. So it'll be interesting how this plays out for Kevin this week. Mason pretty solid across the board. A lot of yellows. But I think he could be in real trouble this week. I think T. Higgins against Denver, not great. I mean, I'm really worried about Jamar Chase. Denver has the best cornerback duos in the league, even though their defense hasn't been fantastic this whole year. They're still solid, and Jake Browning looked really bad last week. Hopefully, that's about as bad as it gets. Saquon has not looked good this year. He's looked really bad for a really good running back. Obviously, you take Saquon over most of the running backs out there, but compared to compared to just last year, he's looked really bad. The tush push is not going away, and that could steals touchdowns from Saquon. Kirk is healthy. He played 67% of the snaps this last week, but I don't think that's quite enough to deserve a flex spot against the Titans, who also have a pretty good defense. I think Mason is going to be sweating it out this week. Jay's team, the tush push just keeps on going. I hate the play, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think at some point Jay needs to actually check his lineup, or he's going to go home. He has Amari Cooper on his team, and Amari Cooper is not on an NFL roster. Juwan Jennings is on his bench still, yet he just keeps on surviving. This could be our new TVR. We will see how much longer Jay continues. Zach's team really struggled this last week. Jacob survived the matchup against Cleveland. I know he spent big last week, but he did survive it. I think Jacobs has a pretty good bounce back week. I think Herbert looks like a stud. The whole Chargers offense looks great. I'm out on his flexes, Pacheco and Mims. I think there's a lot of time before flex 2 and 3s get to be like really solid players, but Pacheco does not look good. I mean, the Chiefs' offense doesn't look good, and Mims seems to be overtaken by Troy Franklin, even though last week Mims had a bunch of air yards. So who knows? I could be totally wrong. I think Zach's team rebounds. He goes from bottom 3 to top 3 this week. Getting towards the bottom here, Landon struggled this week, but Puka he's got to be your number 1 wide receiver right now. At least he is for me. Landon, if you watch these videos and if you're interested in Jamar Chase, would happy to swap him for Puka. I'd even throw in something else for Puka. I think he's the number 1 wide receiver in the league, and it's interesting that Jerome Ford he's not going away in this offense. I would have thought that'd be a terrible RB2, but he got a handful of red zone touches for the Browns offense, and I don't get it because I think Dylan Sampson looks better. Maybe that's my bias as a Dylan Sampson owner, but Ford just keeps on getting touches. I'm totally out on Travis Kelce this year. I don't think he just has not looked good like the entire Chiefs offense. Maybe he's going to be better this week. Maybe when Rashid Rice comes back and Xavier Worthy comes back, that offense is going to change. But he does have Isaiah Likely, who I think is coming back from injury this week, maybe in a following week, and I think Isaiah Likely is going to be a pretty solid tight end, and so that'll be a good plug-in. So our week 4 rankings. It's our weekly reminder that Fantasy Pros does not like Shank's team. Every week, Sleeper likes him. Fantasy Pros does not. Brogan and Johnny have Brogan has a huge split between his rankings and Fantasy Pros rankings. That's because when I at least entered all this in, Brogan hadn't put his free agents that he paid for into the starting lineup. And so Brogan's sleeper ranking will go significantly down. And that's why, I think he'll be fine. Our recap from last week, I feel like I had a pretty good week. Josh Jacobs, he had a decent game, but compared to what Zach paid $600 for him, you're not paying that for under 10 points. That's my threshold here for negative. Really your projection score, but for like a great running back under 10 points is not great. Cooper Kupp and Ramondre had bad games. Ramondre Stevens had a really bad game with 2 fumbles. ETN and Jalen Waddle, they had fine games, but both of them got a touchdown. You take away that touchdown, and it's a really bad game. So they kind of got bailed out there. On the positive side, Brian Thomas Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr., they're just not good. So that's my bad. Khalil Shakir, on the plus side, got bailed out by a touchdown. So he did not get a ton of targets, but he got there. Derrick Henry had a fine game, but he gets 3 carries from inside the 5 and doesn't convert. He gets that in for a touchdown. First of all, that game is completely different. Then you don't have the Lamar like crazy run back, get sacked, fumble, recovers, but turnover on downs. So the whole game looks different if he converts there. And then obviously the fantasy score, 16.2 is a great game. 10.2, that's a good game. I'd say over 10 is the big thing you're looking for each week. And George Pickens, he was great. And honestly, I think he just continues to see even more and more work. Here's my candidates for this week. Jahmyr Gibbs. I think this is just going to be a weekly segment of which running back is playing the Cleveland Browns. Jahmyr Gibbs is like you're starting him, but I think he gets under 10 points this week. I didn't even put Trey Tucker here. Brian, I know not that you were bailed out, you were going to be fine anyway, but that's why you're in the upper echelon. Trey Tucker obviously is not getting 3 touchdowns again, but didn't even need to list him out. Kareem Hunt, the Chiefs are all out of whack. They're going to need to throw the ball against the Ravens. Hunt isn't the pass catcher he once was, so I just don't see a very good game from him. Rashad Bateman had a great game this last week, but I think they moved back to targeting Flowers a little bit more. I think they took what the defense gave them. That was a fantastic Monday night game. I think Zay Flowers gets more involved this upcoming week. Garrett Wilson had another very good game. 13 targets is fantastic. But this week they're playing Miami, and so I think this could be a good Breece Hall game. Maybe it's a good everybody game, and Garrett Wilson gets involved early, gets in the end zone. But this is another game that could get out of hand pretty quickly, and Wilson kind of gets left out. Dalton Kincaid has had just a yo-yo of a season. Great first week, terrible second week, great third week. So I'm just going to see if the pattern continues and has a kind of lays an egg this next week. The Bills could just run all over the Saints. There's a real chance that James Cook has 150 yards by halftime, and Josh Allen and Ray Davis also have 60 or 70 yards. This could be a terrible game, or maybe this is just one of those also weird games where it is close. You never know with the NFL. We had the Packers obviously get beat by the Browns this last weekend, but I don't see Kincaid getting involved too much this week. My easy one here is Zay Flowers. He's not gonna, he was fantastic the first few weeks. The Ravens just didn't need to look for him quite as much against the Lions. Obviously, they needed some more yards, but Rashad Bateman played great, and I think him not getting involved gets corrected. Stephon Diggs, this is a chain mover. Like all he does is catch their downs, move the chains, and continues. He's still increasing his snap share the last few weeks as he recovers from injury. The Panthers played great against the Falcons, or maybe the Falcons played terrible against the Panthers. I'm not sure which one, but I think he gets a few more targets. I think he cracks the 10-point threshold. And like I said before, I think I just want to speak this into existence because I really want this to be true as a Stephon Diggs owner in my other Guillotine league. Ladd McConkey, I'm a little concerned because Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson have 3 red zone targets each last week, and Ladd had 0. But he's so talented. The offense looks fantastic. Ladd is still seeing a good amount of targets. They're playing against the Giants, so honestly, everyone has a chance to get in the end zone. It might be that Allen, QJ, and Ladd all get a touchdown this week against the Giants. It'll be interesting how Jackson Dart does. He'll probably I'm assuming he's going to turn the ball over at some point, so the Chargers will get some more offensive possessions. But I'm also hoping that Jackson Dart can put up some points. And so maybe the Chargers do throw a little bit more than if it was just Russell Wilson turning the ball over for the entire game. I think Mitchell is a potential great play this week. Looks like Alec Pierce is out. The Colts look amazing. And I think Mitchell plays a pretty big role this week. He's a free agent. I think he's going to at least get a good handful of targets. He'll get at least 1 or 2 long looks, and all it takes is connecting on one of those, and it's worth putting him in his lineup. And then Noah Gray, I think maybe was running more routes than Travis Kelce last week. I think he has a good game. I think he starts taking over the tight end 1 position for the Chiefs. That might be a crazy take, and maybe a week from now that was ridiculous. But I am getting ahead of the Travis Kelce thing. I think this is his last season. I think he's one who just loves playing in the playoffs. Not that he doesn't, get up for these games, but I think he's going to be fantastic in the playoffs. I think during the regular season, the Chiefs don't have much to play for. They obviously need to still get into the playoffs, and they've had a terrible start. But I think they just believe that if they play their brand of football, they'll squeak into the playoffs, and then they could just change everything. So I think Noah Gray has a good weekend. Monday Night Football. Apparently, I didn't do this slide. We have 2 games on Monday night. They are let's see if I can do this off memory. We have the Bengals and Broncos. Oh, that's kind of funny. So Johnny and I swapped wide receivers going Monday night. That game could be really bad, but there's going to be a handful of players there. So Sutton, Chase, Higgins, Bo Nix, J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if R.J. Harvey is being started, Chase Brown, maybe some tight ends. The other game is the Miami Jets game. Honestly, both of these games could be really bad. I think a couple weeks ago, like the Denver-Cincinnati game was kind of circled as like that could be a really fun game to watch. The Bengals look really bad. Denver doesn't look great. The Jets and Miami, that game might not be very good, but it'll be interesting if who's getting started. So Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane. So certainly we're probably going into Monday night with some unknowns of who's getting chopped, which is more fun, kind of wait until the end. Because right now I know Jay is projected to have the lowest score on Sleeper, and he is starting Breece Hall, and he's starting Ollie Gordon still. That'll be interesting how long that lasts. So he might have 2 players going on Monday Night Football. So it is more fun when it comes down to the Monday night, and hopefully we get that. Okay, so this is my hot take. So someone who's not, at least in Sleeper, in the chop zone or in the danger zone, and I'm going with Fantasy Pros here. I think Brian goes home. First of all, Shank, this might actually make you feel better because I'm over in these. I just think there's a chance that Cook has a terrible game. I think Ray Davis could handle a lot of work because they don't want Cook to get injured. Maybe Justin Fields starts the game, so you start him, and then he gets injured and gets almost no points. We've all been tricked before by Kyle Pitts. He could have a 0 this game. Like there's a real world where he comes away with 0 points, which is a tough place to be. DeAndre Swift, I think he has probably a pretty good game, but you can't rely on Trey Tucker to carry your team that way. And Xavier Worthy, I think there's a little worry about the shoulder, that if he gets hit, I mean, not to come after Travis Kelce too much this video, but he's the one who knocked out Worthy. I think Worthy could be knocked out of this game. He could start. He could easily get injured and get out of this game. So that's my take on the week. That's my bet that Brian goes home. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this league and look forward to making the next video next week. Good luck out there.